Good morning, it's David Walshe from the Secret Sandland local history page here again, and I'm going to show you a short video today about some lost lanes in the Churchtown and Hesketh Park area. And of course you can see I'm walking down what's now known as Little Churchgate. Obviously this is the remaining part of the original path, described as one of the oldest tracks in Lancashire. I'm just going to point out a few other sites on this little loop that we're going to do. So just to my left here, obviously there's a house there now, but in 1875 the pinfold and lockup were moved from in front of what is now the Botanic Gardens, because the tram terminus was established outside the Botanic Gardens, and they moved the pinfold and the lockup to this point here. And Bullpit tells us that this, where they moved the pinfold to, was a former windmill once stood. So there was a windmill on Mill Lane, but there was also a windmill that stood here, which I've actually seen on a map dated of 1796. And I'm going to show you a few points on around this area. This area, just under a century ago, was known as the Steels. Possible explanation for it being called the Steels is that there was there was 107 stiles, field stiles for crossing fields, and it might have derived from that. So of course we're walking down what today the road, which is called Churchgate. Of course the original Churchgate path would be probably in the back, roughly the back gardens of the houses on my left here, all the way to where it went onto Roe Lane. But there was another lane which crossed this area. It was Pete's Lane. Basically, Pete's Lane's only a short lane today, but originally it continued all the way to what is now the town centre, roughly to the junction of what is now Albert Road and Saunders Street. Now there's a couple of houses across the road here on Churchgate. I'm just going to show you them as we cross the road here. They are slightly younger, possibly by about 30 years. They're just behind me here now. You can see they were probably built in the mid 1950s, possibly early 1960s. Hello. So these buildings here, these stand out because this was the site of Pete's Farm. And Pete's Farm was still in existence at least 1950. And as I said, Pete's Lane continued all the way. It crossed what is now Carrisbrook Drive, and Henley Drive actually follows the course of it, and that will be where we're heading to now, to show you a few more points on that. But while we're just walking down Churchgate, I will say that there was also a football ground down here. North Meals FC were one of the first teams to play there. They created a football ground there. It had a stand. North Meals were an amalgamation of Hyde Park Football Club and Churchtown Old Boys in the 1890s. And there was cricket pitches there as well. It was roughly just to my left here. And as I said, Pete's Lane had a huge ditch. I'll show you some maps on the screen now. A huge ditch which ran all the way of its length to the end of what is now Henley Drive, which is where we're heading next. So we're just heading into Henley Drive now. As I said earlier, this area was known as the Steels. It was bound by roughly Roe Lane, Cambridge Road, Hesketh Drive here, and also approximately Bibby Road. Bibby Road was also known as Old Mill Brow, which it's shown to be on maps. So Henley, as I said, we're in Henley Drive now, which is a continuation of Pete's Lane. Pete's Lane crossed Carrisbrook, and then it basically followed the course of this. And then here's a relic of the lane here. You can see behind me there's a cottage hidden by these conifers here, but this is that little cottage there is a relic of Pete's Lane. Now I believe that Pete's Lane and its continuation, which was called Blownout Lane, I believe that that was actually the preferred route from Churchtown to Southport. It's described, there's a painting in Crosby Library which describes it's a lovely path passing behind the old rectory. Of course, the rectory they're referring to is the rectory where the rookery now stands. It was building commenced in 1825 and it was demolished in 1924. And there was another cottage on this road, and I'm certain it stood where this modern house now stands, and that was called Sycamore Cottage. Again, it's clearly shown on the maps. And Pete's Lane, as I said, it was named Pete's Lane right up until the early 20th century. Of course, also in this area we had Hesketh Park Station, which was created in the 1870s on the West Lancashire line. And then when Pete's Lane got into the vicinity of what is now Rawlinson Road and Park Avenue, it became known as Blownout Lane. It's named on census returns, and the reason it was called Blownout Lane, quite an interesting name, it was named after a field called Blownout Field, which is quite clearly named on a map of 1736, which was produced for the Bold Estate, quite a large area in the vicinity of what is now Allerton Road, Coudray Road, and where Hesketh Park was created. Hesketh Park, of course, created in the sand hills, which were known as the Marshside Hills. Of course, Hesketh Park, the land for Hesketh Park was donated in December 1864 by the Reverend Charles Hesketh, and it eventually opened in May 1868. So the Blownout Lane, or the continuation of Pete's Lane, continued in this area, crossing Rawlinson Road, Park Avenue, parts of Morley Road, Queen's Road, and then obviously it joined up to what was then called Peters Street, named after one of Southport's first magistrates, Ralph Peters, who lived in a house which is now the site of the police station and the fire station, called Woodlands. So we're just going to carry on in this area. I'm going to tell you about another old lane which is now lost, and that's called Carrier's Lane. So we'll pick the video up just when we get round the corner. So just behind me now is a couple of cottages. The one on the corner is called Thorntree Cottage, believed to date from the early 18th century. Jesson says it dates from 1720. There's also there's actually another couple of cottages just behind, just off Rawlinson Grove here. They're known as Willow Cottages. And these cottages behind me here, Thorntree, they were originally part of an old lane. Just let the traffic go past here. An old lane called Carrier's Lane. Now Bailey said that Carrier's Lane, he believed that Carrier's Lane was the route that Sutton may have taken visitors to Churchtown. But when Carrier's Lane got past Thorntree Cottage here, it came to an abrupt end, and there was just two little tracks. One track went to Willow Cottages and the other track went to the hamlet of Westwood. Now Westwood was few of the cottages of Westwood were still standing in the 20th century. They were roughly where the corner of Cambridge Road and Hesketh Road are now. Quite a well-known postcard called A Bit of Old Southport. That's actually a Westwood cottage. So Carrier's Lane sort of dissected what today is this section of Coudray Road. So there's those cottages on the corner, and then there's another couple of cottages which I'm going to tell you about just down here. So we'll carry on up there. So these two properties, 60 and 62 Coudray Road, they're actually back to front. The original front of these buildings faced Carrier's Lane. Carrier's Lane ran what is now their back gardens. Carriers Lane continued towards Beresford Drive, where the Chase Hayes cottages are situated, of course. And then there was another couple of cottages which were on Carriers Lane. I think one of them was known as Twig Moles, and it was here where there was a bridge, a footbridge over the railway, which is now the passageway, which I'm going to be walking down now. So you can see these two older buildings behind me here follow the course of Carriers Lane. Carriers Lane continued on, crossing what is now Beresford Drive in the direction of Churchtown, where it would have picked up what is now Manor Road, which back then was called Marshside Lane. Yeah, and also the Chase Hayes cottages, they were also on Carriers Lane, which we're just coming up to on the right, which is where this little short tour of the area formerly known as the Steels was situated. The Hesketh estate property, the houses on Churchgate, Carrisbrook, etc. All the land was sold. The land of the Steels was sold in 1927, and that's when the houses were created in that area. So again, these cottages here, as they form part of the hamlet of Chase Hayes. These ones on this section were on Carriers Lane, and you heard me mention earlier about Bibby Road, what is now Bibby Road, being called Old Mill Brow. So the section which we're coming up to now. So Old Mill Brow will have ran from the direction of Marshside down there to where the start point of the video. So here we are. This is where the video ends today in the Chase Hayes. So I hope you've enjoyed that little tour of the Steels. Let me know what you think. Please like, share, subscribe to the page, and keep following Secret Sandland. Thanks very much.